Hey guys, Brendan Bradford here from Sporting News, joined now by Wallabies legend Drew Mitchell. We're talking Rugby Championship, Bledisloe Cup and all things Wallabies. Wallabies started the Rugby Championship with a draw down in Wellington, then went to Eden Park. It was a pretty tough look there. What have you made of the first two games so far?
Yeah, look, I thought both contests have been pretty well fought out. I think obviously the first game coming down, what was it, 9 minutes of extra time and still not able to get a result. Both teams had their opportunities right in the dying stages. So many people are asking why neither side attempted a field goal, but it's probably, in some ways a fair result given how closely the game was competed throughout the entire 89 minutes. But then obviously you've got to get a response. New Zealand going up to the old Eden Park was, for that game, as Cooper's Catch Park, named after a small little fish and chip shop that's been doing it tough through coronavirus. I thought maybe that was our chance to break the hoodoo because we haven't been successful at Eden Park for so long. We thought maybe the name change might do something for us, but it wasn't to be. It's obviously the spiritual home of the All Blacks, and they just, for whatever reason, just they really aim up there, and the intensity they showed. I think, again, the Wallabies created opportunities. Another thing that keeps sort of popping up as a bit of a common trend, not just with this current group, but previously, was just our lack of executing on those opportunities made. But then, also over 20 turnovers, giving the All Blacks that much ball, you're going to have to be up for it in defence, which again we weren't. 41 missed tackles as well. So those types of numbers, you can't really expect to be coming out on top against the All Blacks.
It seemed like in both games, I think, in the first, it was only the first sort of 5 or 6, 7 minutes. The Wallabies did really well. It looked like they could have, they were dominating. They were in the zone. They had territory and position, but just weren't able to get over the line. And down at Wellington, the All Blacks just counter-attack and score at the other end. Missed Rieko Ioane foot on the line, but it's like you're saying, like this, just an inability to turn that pressure into points.
Well, that's right, and I think that the game changes there because it changes the psyche of the side. Instead of being the ones that are out in front and got at least a little bit of scoreboard pressure on the All Blacks, like in quick moments, like you say, it just changes, and then all of a sudden they're the team chasing the game. And I know chasing the game is probably a little bit much of a stretch in terms of how early in the game it was, but it's funny how much, especially when you're going over and having not won in New Zealand for so long and having not won in Eden Park for even longer, it's funny how just even getting your nose in front early can have a big difference on the mindset and the way that you play, and how you just sort of relax into the game and sort of get comfortable in that game, and rather than sort of always being on edge thinking, oh geez, here we go again, or we're chasing the game, or we know how good the All Blacks can be, but again we're already sort of 7 points down, 5 points down, whatever it might be. So yeah, I mean, that's something I think over these last 2 weeks, I think David Rennie and the squad would have been focusing on a lot, is putting themselves in situations where they've created opportunities, got themselves down there and being patient to make sure that we execute on those opportunities.
It was obviously, after the draw, a lot of excitement and a lot of hype, particularly in Australia. Dave Rennie hearing some really good things out of camp and stuff. Is there sort of a honeymoon period? Is it still existing? Like, how long does he have before, if results don't come, things start going really, really sour?
Look, I mean, I don't think there's ever going to be any pressure on his job in the immediate future, but I think in terms of staying engaged with the rugby public, I think everyone's pretty keen on the Wallabies at the moment, and I'm really excited with this sort of new era, the new coach, everything like that. They put up 2 strong performances. I think the scoreboard blew out a little bit in their last game in Eden Park that probably didn't necessarily reflect how closely fought that game was. I mean, I know those numbers weren't great that I mentioned, but I thought they were still in that game right up towards the end. That being said, the All Blacks were sort of in control for most of it, but they stuck in that fight, and I think it's probably more about how the team goes about their work at the moment. Obviously, we're dying for results and that type of thing. We put ourselves in a good position by getting the draw in the first game, by effectively having a 3-game Bledisloe series with 2 of them at our home ground. So that's what we're faced with now. We've got to win the next 2. But yeah, in terms of pressure on the squad and on the coaching staff, I don't think there's going to be too much pressure on them, other than just trying to keep the fan base engaged, because we've got it at the moment. Like, the game's gone through a lot in the last sort of 12 to 18, 24 months. and there's some disenchanted spectators and fans, and sort of drop in and drop out. At the moment, we've got them, and for us, we really need to keep them engaged by putting out a strong performance and putting ourselves in a position to win the game, if not win the game.
It seems like there's a lot of young talent coming through, a couple of really promising debuts over the first couple of games. Jordan Petaia coming on in Auckland, putting in a really good performance. And a lot of sort of headlines and stories about these young guys have beaten, some of the current All Black squad at age group and schoolboys rugby. These are the guys to bring the game through. Who have you been impressed by so far?
Harry Wilson's been someone that I think has just looked quite seamless in terms of the step up for him from Super Rugby into international footy, and he's only new into Super Rugby this year, so he's had a pretty phenomenal year, and that was my concern going into game one. Often when there's one debut or debutant, the question marks are they going to be able to take that step from state level to international? And in that game, we had 3 guys on debut. We had 10 guys that hadn't played over 10 tests. So we had quite a pretty fresh squad. And I think, honestly, all of them really stood up and didn't look out of place. I think Giteau in that first game was tremendous. Hunter Paisami as well. And then you have guys with just a handful of tests like Matt Phillips stepping up. Jordan Petaia, he's been through such an awful run of injuries. And, for him just to kind of get out there and put minutes together and hopefully he's had this 2 weeks where he can kind of keep building on that sort of body of his, so that we can see maybe in a starting jersey come this next game. But I think the squad's in a good place in terms of the young guys really stepping up and putting pressure on and adding different things, whether it be enthusiasm or a different approach, or even maybe just not having that baggage of some of us others that have gone through a generation of not beating them. So, at the moment they're going well, but at the same time, they're going to be a bunch of guys that need results as well at some point. I like to kind of to really reinforce what it is that they're believing in themselves and to each other. But you need results to kind of continue that and really breed it further and foremost.
You mentioned that baggage. Just going back to the Eden Park thing. What is it about the place? And do you have any sort of memories or recollections that you're just like, I'm sick of this spot?
Mate, you know what? Honestly, not at all. Like, I actually quite enjoyed playing there, which is funny because I've not really had any success there at all. Certainly not in a gold jersey. I'm not too sure. Maybe Super Rugby, I might have won one or something. But it's a good place. It's like that. The facilities aren't any different. Doesn't make it any more difficult. I honestly just think the All Blacks have just tapped into the emotional connection that they've got to that ground, and also, when I played there as well, and many other Wallaby teams that have gone over there and played, coming up against perhaps the best team that ever played in that sort of 2010 to 2015 kind of era. So it was tough going, but I just don't know if there's anything necessarily that makes it any harder than any other ground other than the team that you're playing against, to be honest.
Yeah. And we saw David Campese say, he feels maybe the aura's gone from the All Blacks with sort of a changing of the guard, different generations. Think there's anything there, or is it a wait and see type thing at the moment? Or
you know what? I think it's honestly it's irrelevant what I think or any other former player thinks, because it's really about the current group and what they feel if the aura is there or not. It's about what they feel, what makes them sort of nervous or gives them sort of that anxiety around them as a team, or if there's none of that. Obviously they've had such great success for a long period of time, and to their own standards, they haven't been at that point for the last sort of few years. But still, obviously, can do it on any given day. But in terms of an aura, it's really up to this current squad and how they view the All Blacks, how they the game, and it's easy for us old guys to sort of sit there and say, "Oh, the aura's over," but we're not the ones that are actually preparing for a game and sitting there the night before a game, perhaps not getting the best sleep or whatever it might be. So, I think that one's really down to the current squad.
What have you been up to lately? I've seen you on the Aussie Rugby Show. You got a wine out at the moment. I think I saw you running marathons or something. What's been happening in the last couple of years?
I haven't done too much running since. I thought I want to do one marathon in my life, and I most certainly will only do one after completing it. But I thought that the smartest thing for me to do is to do it as close to my retirement as possible, because things sort of go downhill in terms of fitness after that. So I did that, I think 2017 or 18, I think. And then, otherwise, just during the isolation period, myself and a few others got let go by Fox earlier in the year. We just started like our own show. It all started on Zoom, like a 4-window Zoom chat, just because we're all isolating. And then it's 23 episodes later, we kind of get around to as many like different junior clubs, shoot shield clubs everywhere around New South Wales. Excuse me. And it's good. We just talk about the big talking points of rugby at that point. We talk about some old stories. We revisit some old former players, that type of thing. It's a bit more chill, a bit more relaxed. You can have a beer and tell a bit, some stories that we perhaps wouldn't have been able to tell in previous networks and things. So, I mean, it's good as well. It's just good to kind of, for us to sort of stay engaged with the game, but also, given the current broadcasting, there's no actual rugby show. So we thought, there's a space there. And if we're not doing too much at the moment with the current climate, then let's do it. So yeah, I mean, it's been fun. As I said, 23. I think we're going to get to maybe 29 eps by the end of the Tri Nations. So it's been good fun. But at the same time as well, like you mentioned, started a wine label with a few of the former teammates, Matt Giteau, Adam Ashley Cooper, myself, and that's called Backline Wines. We started speaking about that last year. Through our career, we met a winemaker in Ben Riggs. He's based down in Adelaide, and sort of got to know him pretty well. And also, just someone that worked in Malt and Hennessy, David Krenich. He was a guy that sort of sponsored a couple of the teams that we played in throughout our career, and grew to have a good friendship with him. And then we just thought, there's an opportunity here for us to bring our love of wine back from France, because my time was spent with Matt Giteau at Toulon, which is Provence rosé region. Adam was in Bordeaux, where it's all red wine, and we obviously loved it so much. We immersed ourselves in the culture over there so much that we thought, let's bring that passion and that love back, and start our own wine. So the wine's from Adelaide Hills and McLaren Vale more specifically, and it's been fun. It's been good because we're no longer touring together. We're no longer training every day together and banter and all that sort of stuff. Whereas this gives us an opportunity to kind of stay engaged, also to learn something about a new industry, and also means that we get to taste and have plenty of our own wine, which is cool.
I think I saw it launched earlier this year, so probably at the start of sort of lockdowns and ISO and whatnot. Yeah. Dangerous couple of months there spent in ISO with your own wine selection.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, obviously at that time, again, like we spoke about it last year, so we couldn't predict what was going to happen this year. I don't think anyone could have, but at the time when we launched, alcohol that was delivered was somewhat of a priority for some. So that was good. It launched at the right time, but obviously we're also having to adapt as well with different things in the industry. Obviously, restaurants and venues have been hit pretty hard, so to try and get into those areas is proving a difficult one, but it's just something that we need to sort of keep grinding away and working with and forming relationships, and really just for us just to try and get a bit of traction in the sort of marketplace, let people know and become aware of the fact that we do exist. And yes, it is slightly skewed towards obviously the rugby, because that's what we're obviously what we've been doing for so long, but the wine itself holds up on its own, because Ben Riggs is an acclaimed winemaker down there, and in Adelaide, and so the wine itself is a good drop. So if you don't necessarily like the rugby side of things, you'll definitely love the wine.
And what's your go-to? Do you have a signature bottle?
Look, we've got a marquee. Our latest marquee signing is the 295, which is like, it's our premium product at the moment. It's sort of ranges sort of $50 to $60 a bottle, and it's corked, wax cap. 295 is three of us accumulated. So and yeah, it's a nice tasting Shiraz, and but yeah, look, that one's a limited edition. Like, it's only sort of certain bottled numbers. I think it's 1,093 bottles actually, which is the amount of points that the three of us have scored. So just a limited batch. But the other bottles as well, mate, they go well as well.
Nice one. cheers for talking rugby and wine and a little bit of your brief marathon period. Appreciate it. Cheers, mate.
No worries, mate. Cheers. Thanks for the chat.